And Barnsley Council have decided that the road near to it needs to be widened and for a gyratory system to be put in place. And the sacrifice will be trees and the park. So I now want to introduce Councillor Peter Fielding from Barnsley Council and the Save PennyPiePark campaign to talk about that very important community group. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Si. I'm told I've got to get very close to the microphone. Is that audible? Yeah, okay. Nearer. Right, Si's invited me down today. I didn't really know what to expect or really what I was going to talk about other than PennyPiePark, so it's sort of vaguely prepared. So as Si said, I'm a local councillor now in Barnsley. This time last year I wasn't a local councillor, but I got involved in the PennyPiePark campaign, and in order to further that campaign I stood for election in May on the platform of saving PennyPiePark, and let's say I won by a landslide because of the amount of community support for stopping this environmentally unfriendly project. Just a bit of background about what PennyPiePark involves. Well, PennyPiePark is an urban park in Barnsley, very close to the main junction with the M1, and it's on the main route into Barnsley from the M1. It is a very congested junction. It's a crossroads with traffic lights. The park is about 4.5 hectares, and it's the only green space in the area, so it's very well valued locally. Barnsley Council want to improve traffic flow, so instead of trying to reduce traffic, which is what we want them to do, they've decided to try and accommodate more traffic. They've got plans for more growth in the area. They want to build 2,000 houses and provide 3,000 jobs, employment spaces on nearby Greenbelt, which will only increase the amount of traffic and the demand on the junction. So their solution eventually was to put a planning application in to build a giant roundabout on the park, which is, they call it a gyratory, I just call it a giant roundabout with lots of traffic lights. They want to fell 70 plus mature trees in the process, and the park will effectively disappear. By their own admission, building the road in the way that they want to build it, traffic flow will increase by at least 10% immediately because it will attract more traffic. Air pollution in terms of nitrous oxides and particulates will increase around one of the biggest secondary schools in Europe, which is adjacent to the junction. 2,200 secondary school pupils will all be affected by it. There'll be hundreds of homes affected by an increase of noise. And importantly, for me included, because I live close to the park, we will lose our really only green space. And that's where I walk my little dog. So I've got to find somewhere else to walk it now. So 18 months ago, we knew nothing about this scheme. I came back from holiday to find a consultation letter from the planning authority through my letterbox. I didn't think too much about it until I went online and looked at the plans, read the reports, and realised how much damage was going to be done by this scheme. And within a matter of weeks, an online petition had started. We got nearly 3,000 signatures. Over 250 people wrote objections to the planning authority, and despite all that, they went ahead and granted themselves planning permission to carry out this damaging scheme. We got lots of publicity. We got a campaign group going. We were on regional television, on Radio Sheffield frequently, and in the local press every week. We've got letters, articles and so on. And the council were getting a really bad press about this, but they've carried on regardless. They granted themselves planning permission 12 months ago. We tried to get the application called in by the Secretary of State, but to no avail. We then looked at the possibility of a judicial review, but to no avail. We challenged the council's appropriation of the land. We've got to change it from being a green space to a highway. No avail on that one. So I put myself up for election. I won the election, deposed the sitting councillor who supported the scheme, and I've been a thorn in the side, and I'm trying to be a thorn in the side of the administration now, and I've, with Si's assistance, we've put forward the motion for a climate emergency declaration. I tried to vary the council's climate emergency declaration by bringing forward the zero carbon targets by 10 years and by asking them to set up a citizen assembly. That was all defeated, but they did declare a climate emergency. And despite declaring a climate emergency, they still insist on pursuing this scheme. They will not consider any traffic reduction measures, whether it's a park and ride scheme, whether it's building cycleways, whether it's encouraging car sharing, improving public transport. The only solution they've got is to build bigger roads and get more traffic. And it will not, in most people's view, reduce congestion in any way whatsoever. It is a very busy junction, granted that, but there are other solutions, in my view. Let's see what I've missed. So the other authority we've been challenging is Sheffield City Region. We've got a lot of fine words recently about green transport initiatives, about sustainable transport, about the value of green space. But Sheffield City Region and Mayor Dan Jarvis, who is also the MP for Barnsley, he's funding this scheme, or Sheffield City Region are funding this scheme to the tune of £2.5 million. So without that funding, this scheme wouldn't go ahead. So that doesn't really chime with their green transport, sustainable transport initiatives. And we've challenged them consistently on that, but they won't engage with us, unfortunately. So where are we now with PennyPiePark? The scheme is going to go ahead. Barnsley Council are determined it's going ahead. And to prove a point, last Tuesday, without warning at all for the community, we turned up and the whole park was fenced off. So people were turning up to use the park as normal, to find it completely fenced off, including illegally blocking off a public right-of-way. So we've got lots of things to challenge on that. We're expecting that next Tuesday they will turn up and start felling the trees. 75 mature trees to go. So we've got a protest next Tuesday, and if anybody wants to join us, come along, it's easy to find. It will be a peaceful protest, but we want as many people there as possible. We honestly don't know what time, so we're just saying to people turn up in the morning, because we were only guessing, because it's all very secretive, we're just guessing that that's when they're going to turn up and start felling the trees. We have a bit of inside information, but that doesn't mean we know exactly what's going to happen. So, my question I was saying to Si earlier, are we deflated by this? Well, we are deflated because we're going to lose the park, and the park is lost forever now. We will never get in that park again. And the scheme will go ahead, the road will be built, the pollution will increase, and so on. But have we achieved anything? Well, we've achieved a small victory in terms of the trees, because the council have now put some more money aside and are going to transplant at least 30 of the mature trees to other parts of the site. So they won't be felled, they will be preserved in that regard. So it's a very small victory. They're going to plant more trees around the scheme, and they're going to be more mature trees, the heavy mature standard trees. So again, that's a small victory going forward. And I honestly think that this council, and hopefully some other councils, will think again before coming up with schemes like this, because of the amount of pressure it's caused them and the amount of trouble it's caused them and the extra costs involved in satisfying our demands. So I don't see it as a complete loss, and I think we've actually achieved a few things. And I think the climate emergency agenda has overtaken them as well, and public opinion has overtaken them, because we've got almost universal support in the community. And they will suffer again at the ballot box in May, because they will lose more seats. They lost 7 seats last May. I expect they'll lose at least another 7 next May. And it's largely because of schemes like this that are going on in Barnsley. So, thank you for listening. I can't think of much else to say, but any support on Tuesday will be great.